So one of the most important things to remember when you are working with percent is that when I say 35%, I don't mean 35. Remember, percent means out of 100. So 35% really means 35 out of 100. So often when you work with percent, the easiest way to do it is to turn it into a decimal by doing 35 divided by 100. In this case, you would get 0.35. And then of always means to multiply. And then you get your calculator and you figure out that answer. Okay? You could also do this using a proportion. 35 out of 100 is X out of 360 total. And then you could cross multiply and divide by 100. And you'll get the same answer. So it's kind of personal preference. Most people prefer the first way because it's a little bit faster. So let's look at some application problems then. So a book has 520 pages. Denise is 65% of the way through. So again, this is saying 65% of 520. So that's just 0.65 times 520. And you'll get 338. Again, if you want, you could set up a proportion, 65% of the way through your book that is 520 pages long, and you could solve the proportion. What about this one? The capacity of a local arena is 4,500 people. The arena is 70% filled for a local hockey game. How many people are there? Same thing, right? 70% of 4,500. So we turn that into a decimal, multiply, and we'll get 3,150. If we want to, we could use a proportion instead. And then cross multiply and divide, or in this case, the numbers are relatively friendly. Okay? Let's look at one example that's a little bit more challenging. So this says that a local bus has 28 people on it currently. The bus is 80% filled to capacity. The question is, how many people does the bus hold when it is full? So this is not saying what's 80% of the 28 people. This is saying 80% of some unknown number that we don't know will equal the 28 people. So I could write that as 80% of, we'll call it X, equals the 28 people. So remember, I could change that into a decimal. Of means to multiply, multiply by X. And then I could divide both sides by 0.8. I could use my algebra skills, and I could get my answer, which is 35 people. This is a little bit different. Now, again, a proportion could be used here, and some people actually find the problem easier when you use a proportion. So 80% is 80 out of 100. The only difference with this one and the other ones is the 28 people was the 80%, and we're trying to figure out the capacity, how many people would make it full. So then you could cross multiply and divide both sides by 80 and get your answer. So those are just a couple examples of how to be looking at using percent of a number. Some are more straightforward than others.